What would change in your music career if you started thinking in seasons instead of just songs? How much good would that do you as a music artist, as a singer, rapper, producer, songwriter? How much good would that do you if instead of just thinking about one song at a time, one release at a time, one TikTok video at a time, one beat produced at a time, one song written at a time, you started to think in seasons. You started to think in 5 month spans, 6 month spans, 12-month spans, having a catalog ready to go all the time. I think it would do you a lot of good. That's my response. It would do you so much good if instead of just thinking one song at a time, you found a way to prepare yourself for a season and going, okay, I'm in a season of consistency here. I'm in a season of putting out a song a month, two songs a month for the next 5, 6 months. If you don't know who I am, my name is Timothy. I'm an artist, I'm a songwriter who has worked with hundreds of artists across the world, helping them build momentum, grow their audience, grow their fan base, one great song at a time. I wrote the award winning rap performance for The Voice Lithuania Season 10. I co wrote a Eurovision entry for the year 2025. And I have songwriting credits with Universal Music. And, I looked back at my career, my growth, how I started putting out music, and I sort of reverse engineer the one thing that I found grew my audience the most, and that was consistency. This is the whole video at this point. This is the one point I'm trying to drive home here is that consistency beats everything, especially in your music career when it comes to putting out music, right? Getting heard, growing your audience, building momentum. Consistency beats everything. There's three main points I want to just, touch on in this video that I want to use to challenge you, challenge your beliefs, challenge how you think about your career. Three things I'm just going to leave you with. And the first thing is your belief system. What it is you believe about yourself, what you believe about your music, what you believe about your sound, right? And so the first thing I'm talking about is belief system. This video is pretty much just for myself because this is something I wish I would have known or understood better when I started putting out music, because I think very often artists tend to doubt themselves. At least I know I did when I started putting out music. Sometimes we get this feeling or these thoughts of, well, why should anyone listen to me? Like, yeah, I know how to write a song, I know how to sing, but I don't really deserve to be heard by the world out there, right? There's lots of talented people out there who are way better than me. I know for one, I'm a great artist if I do say so myself, but sometimes I listen to even friends of mine, right? And I just think, oh yeah, they're so much better. If anyone deserves to be heard, it's them. It's not me, right? And that's the first thing I want to challenge today. Is that voice at the back of your mind that goes, there's no point to even put out this music because it's like, am I that good? Am I worth being listened to? And I just want to challenge that today and tell you, you are. That's the first thing we're addressing here, is that you are worthy of being heard, right? I think the mistake that lots of artists make, it's a mistake I made as well early on in my career, is mistaking views or mistaking listeners or mistaking the response we get when we put out our music, when we put out that, that visualizer, that music clip, mistaking that for our value. Thinking the more people listen to me, the more monthly listeners I have on Spotify, the more valuable I am. That validates my talent. That validates my value in the marketplace. And that stuff doesn't. Okay? That stuff doesn't, because those are things that are just dependent on algorithms, right? And we're going to talk more about that stuff, how to actually beat the algorithm and actually get heard, because I know that's equally important, right? If you feel like your music is amazing, then you really do want people to hear it. And so that's important. I'm not invalidating that. We will get into that a bit more down in the video. But I think the first thing is understanding and establishing that your value isn't and should never be tied to how many monthly listeners you have on Spotify, or how many views your visualizer video gets, or how many people say, man, that song of yours is absolutely amazing. Your music, your talent is valuable because you say it is. If you say this song I've just created is the best thing in the world, then it is. Your opinion on your music is the most important opinion you can have, right? It's more important than what anyone else thinks, than what the algorithm thinks. It's not about who all is watching you. What you say about yourself, what you say about your songs, your music is the number one most important thing. Okay. And so your belief system, that's the first thing. Understanding that you are not tied, your value isn't tied to how many people listen, how many monthly listeners you have. It's not tied to how many people say great song, man. It's also not tied to how many people say this isn't good, right? Your value isn't tied to the praises of people. Neither is it tied to the hate, right? That people will smear or spare or spill, right? Over the internet. Your value is tied to you. You are, what you say goes. It's as simple as that, right? So your belief system. Number two thing I'm going to address, frequency. Now let's get a bit into some more of the tactics, right? Because I do believe before getting into tactics of how you should go about putting out music, what kinds of songs you should be putting out, the first and most important thing is what I've addressed is your belief system. What you believe about yourself, what you believe about your music, what you believe about your sound as a music artist, okay? And so now, talking about frequency, right? How often should you be putting out music? In this day and age, my personal recommendation is you should be putting out a song a month. Mic drop. Okay? And listen, I don't think that's news at this point, right? If you don't live under a rock in 2026, you realize that consistency matters. Okay. Frequency matters. How often you're showing up, it absolutely matters, right? And my personal recommendation is you should be putting out a song a month for at least 5 to 6 months in a way to grow your audience. That's what I saw for myself, right? I personally, what grew my monthly Spotify listeners from zero to my first 10K, monthly listeners on Spotify, was that consistency. It was putting out a song, watching that song not perform how I wanted it to, and just going, oh, well, here's the next one. while posting those videos on social media, and that one's doing well. And then I hop on a feature with a friend of mine and we're promoting that one the next month, right? That consistency is so important, right? I want you to picture two artists, all right? Picture artist A and artist B. Artist A puts out one song a year, maybe, if that, right? They drop sometime in the middle of the year, and then you don't hear from them for the next 12 months. And then picture artist B, who is putting out a song a month for 6 months consistently. In this day and age of social media, of how quickly people move on from stuff, who do you think will experience more success, more momentum, more growth? It's definitely artist B. It's the person who keeps showing up regardless of what views look like, regardless of what listeners on Spotify look like. The person who shows up all the time is bound to grow. That person will see their monthly listeners rise. If you're showing up in people's faces consistently for 6 months, your listeners are going to grow. Your fan base is going to grow, right? And so, frequency, at the very least, you should be putting out a song a month, right? One song a month. That's what I've seen as someone who has worked with tons of artists. I've written songs for artists across the world, right? I've seen that consistency just beats everything, right? You could do more than that. You could do 2 songs a month, but at the very least, if you're serious about growing your career, your fan base, your monthly listeners, a song a month at the very minimum. All right. So we've talked about your belief systems, what you believe about yourself and your music. We've talked about your frequency. How often are you putting out music? Last but not least, I want to talk about what I call fan favorites, right? These are what types of songs you should be putting out as a music artist. And I think people grossly underestimate how powerful this is or the importance of this, right? What story are you telling with your music? What brand are you building with your music, right? How intentional are you about the specific types of songs that you're putting out, right? And these may differ depending on what kind of artist you are. These differ from artist to artist, right? Um, and if you want to know what worked for me personally, like I said, what grew me from zero to my first 10K monthly listeners, I actually have a 5 month music release strategy template that I put together. You can get it in the description below. That just walks you through the types of songs I put out, right? My 5 month release strategy that I recommend for artists who want to build momentum, grow their fan base, grow their audience. You could grab that in the description below, where I just talk about what has worked for me personally. But it's super important as an artist to be aware of what kinds of songs you're putting out. Are you putting out what I call feel good songs that are kind of just like not too deep, are kind of just generalized topics, fun conversations in your song, just talking your talk, as the rappers would say? Are you putting out emotional music that gets people sad and crying, or gets people thinking about their lives and their loved ones, that sort of stuff? Are you putting out what I call anthems, right? Songs that are just like super repetitive, because there's a place for that, right? Are you more on the gothic side? Are you going the pop route? Are you going the hip hop route, right? It's important to understand your brand as an artist and know what kind of music is worth putting out. And so your belief systems. All right, I'm just going to wrap up this conversation, but just by just highlighting what we've talked about today. What you believe about yourself is, number one, the most important thing. The rest of the stuff I talk about doesn't matter if you don't believe in yourself, if you genuinely don't think that you are the ish, that your music is amazing, right? And of course, getting better at music, at putting out music, at writing, at recording, right? That's a skill that is built as well. But that intrinsic value that you have as a person and as a music artist should not be determined by views, by monthly listeners, or any of that stuff, right? So what you believe about yourself is super important. How often you put out music is super important. What kinds of songs you're putting out, the brand you're building for yourself is also super important. Okay, don't be scared to put yourself out there as a music artist. Things will feel slow, especially if you're getting started, right? Things will feel slow before momentum picks up. It's just how life works. It's how music works. It's how content works. It's how everything works. When you get started at something, when you're putting out music consistently, it's going to feel like nothing is moving, nothing is shifting at first. But if you stick with it over time, you will see results. I'm not just telling you what I watched someone else say on YouTube or on TikTok. I'm telling you what I've experienced. I've seen that if you show up consistently, right, you will build that momentum. People will start to tune in, right? People will start to give you that listening ear. So don't give up. Keep putting music out. Keep being consistent, and you can watch your momentum grow. You can watch your monthly listeners on Spotify grow. And again, if you want to get that 5 month music release strategy of mine that grew me from zero to my first 10K monthly listeners on Spotify, just grab that in the description below, and I will catch you on the next video.